It has been said that the book of Revelation is like the train station of the Bible. One cannot truly understand the events happening in Revelation unless they know the rest of the Bible, Old Testament and New.
One of the really cool things about Revelation is that only the last 2 chapters of the book are new to us. The rest of Revelation is all stuff you can find from the Old Testament. Hey everybody.
Hi there.
My name's Emily.
I'm Larry, and this is Planet in God. Our goal here is to take you systematically through the Bible, book by book, chapter by chapter, verse by verse. And today we're starting a brand new series in a book of the Bible. What are we doing?
We are going to go through the book of Revelation, which is my favorite book.
Excellent. I love the book of Revelation. And so why? Why are we doing Revelation now?
Well, I think because it's a book in the Bible.
Obviously.
And it kind of just ties everything all together with the other books of the Bible, because knowing the Old and New Testament really helps you understand the bits of Revelation.
Yes. It was an interesting fact about Revelation is that there's only 2 chapters of it that contains new revelation, new revealing, new information. Everything else is in the Old Testament. Right? You can trace back and find everything that is in the book of Revelation. So our goal with this study, just so you all are aware, is we're not going to go through the theology of eschatology or the theology of the end times as a whole. Our focus is on the book of Revelation and going through that book well. As we need to deviate and pull in things for additional content, we will. Those will be bonus episodes, if you will, for us. But for the most part, we're going to stick to the book of Revelation and go through that. One of the reasons being is that a lot of people are doing what I used to do in high school. When in high school literature classes, I would, they'd give us a book and I'd slack and read the first chapter, maybe a middle chapter, and the end chapter. And then I've got enough details I can write a report on. And I'd skate through with C's and D's on that. If needed, I'd go out and buy the Cliff Notes.
It's terrible.
It is. But that's how I skated through. And a lot of people are doing that with the Bible. They'll pick up the Bible and they'll think, hey, this is a book, right? And they'll treat it like a book, like I did in high school. They'll read the first chapter, Genesis, right? They'll read something in the middle, so they get creation in Genesis. They'll read, one of the Gospels or some of the Gospels. They go, okay, I got Jesus down. And then they'll go to the end, Revelation, and they'll do newspaper analysis of Revelation and go, yeah, I got the end. And now I'm a scholar and I know what I'm talking about. Well, no, you kind of need to know a lot more than just that. So we want to go systematically through it, help people to understand it that are maybe in that position where they've read Genesis, they've read a gospel, and now they're reading Revelation. And to help you kind of understand it a little bit.
And help us understand it a little more.
Exactly.
Because anytime you read any parts of the Bible, I think God is opening up your mind to more and more every time you read it.
Right.
So.
Agreed. And we just need to remember that the Bible, while it's printed as one book, it really is a library of books. It's 66 books all rolled up into one complete volume.
Yeah.
So, without further ado, let's dive into our topic today. What are we talking about?
So today we're going to go over the W's of the book of Revelation, which are the who, what, where, when, and why of the book. And so the very first one is we're going to talk about who wrote the book. So, who wrote the book?
Well, the book, the author identifies himself 4 times in the book of Revelation as John the Apostle. So he identifies himself in verse 1, verse 4, verse 9. That's all in chapter 1, by the way. And then he identifies himself again in chapter 22, verse 8, as John.
Yes. I have some fun facts about
Fun
John.
facts.
He was one of the 3 that was at the Transfiguration, which
Yep.
I think is so cool. And that's seen in Matthew 17, 1 through 13. And then he wrote 5 books in
Really?
the New Testament. 1st, 2nd, 3rd John,
That's 3.
Revelation,
That's 4.
and the Gospel of John.
That's 5. Yay, we can count.
He was a Galilean fisherman,
Mm-hmm.
and he was born in Bethsaida.
Yep.
And then he was born, his father was Zebedee, and mother was Salome.
So, fun fact about Salome, I'm going to throw it up here. What you're seeing should be the family tree of Jesus. And you'll notice Salome and Zebedee. Salome is the sister of Mary, the mother of Jesus, making Zebedee and Salome Jesus' aunt and uncle. And the John, the apostle, and his brother James, cousins.
I also thought it was really interesting that he is noted as the disciple whom the Lord loves.
Yeah.
And that's referenced a lot in the Gospel of John.
Right, because in the Gospel of John, he doesn't actually identify himself like he does in Revelation. So he doesn't actually say his name in the Gospel, but that's how he says his name, is the one whom Jesus loved.
And he was also tasked with taking care of Mary.
Yep.
And that's John 19, 26 through 27. So, which explains the whole relational thing, right? Them being
Right.
cousins. So I thought that was a neat fun fact. And that's
is.
all the fun facts I really have.
Excellent. So then, who is the book written to?
So for sure the 7 churches.
Yep. You have the 7 churches in Asia. That's seen in a number of verses, specifically chapter 1, verse 4, 11, chapter 2, verse 1, and chapter 22, verse 6. But there's 2 other people that the book is addressed to.
Yes, believers.
All believers, yep. All servants, that's chapter 1, verse 1, and 22, verse 6 mentions that. And there's a third group.
Unbelievers.
Yes, all persons,
Yeah.
saved and unsaved, need to read this book.
Right, all people.
All people. So this is a book for everyone. It doesn't matter where you are at in your walk with the Lord. Now's a great time to pick it up and read it, because there is a message for you in Revelation.
Right. Or even if you haven't started your walk,
Exactly.
because it can happen through Revelation.
Yep.
Okay, so then we go into the what is the book about?
Yes. So, what is the book about? Sunday school answer: Jesus. Right? The book is it is the revealing, the revelation. Look at the title, the revelation of Jesus Christ. It's not the revelation to Jesus Christ, it's of Jesus Christ. So Jesus Christ is the central focus of the book. This is for him, by him, because of him, and pointing to him alone. That kind of goes back to, you think about the revelation of Jesus Christ. What is the Greek word for revelation?
Apocalypse.
Yes, apocalypse. So when we think of apocalypse, a lot of us think of the zombie apocalypse, right? The end of the world, wars.
Yeah, it has a bad, like our culture has given it like a bad
Yes.
kind of essence to it.
Yes, but in all honesty, revealing or revelation, apocalypse is I'm going to show you something, right? Jesus Christ is going to show us, yes, what happens at the end, right? This is a revealing of what's going to happen at the end. And that's kind of where we get this bad connotation to it, because apocalypse is associated with the end. But you could go and take, the Gospel of John. It could be the apocalypse of John, right? Because John is revealing Jesus Christ in that book. it has nothing to do with the end. I mean, there's bits and pieces of it that have it, but
Right.
not as a whole. So we need to kind of get that out of our heads a little bit, that apocalypse is not always the end. It's the revealing of something.
Yeah.
So where is John at when he's writing this?
So he is on an island called Patmos, and that's Revelation 1:9 that
Yep.
says that. So there's other non-biblical books that also confirm that he was exiled
Right.
to the island of Patmos. Too.
Why was he exiled there?
Well, he was talking about Jesus.
Yeah. He was exiled for the testimony of Jesus Christ.
Yep. So I think that's really the short answer there. And then we go into when was the book written?
Right. So when was it written?
Well, I have around AD 96, but I know you have a little bit more.
I do, because the dates of the books of the Bible are always contested theologically, specifically this book, because depending on what date you fall on will maybe kind of lean towards how you interpret the book, or how you look at it and read the book. So we know for sure, according to Revelation 1:9, that it was during a time of great Christian persecution. I want to read that verse just so that we have it level set. He says, I, John, both your brother and companion in the tribulation and kingdom and patience of Jesus Christ, was on the island called Patmos for the word of God and for the testimony of Jesus Christ. So he is exiled, he is under persecution. And then we see further persecution throughout the 7 letters in chapters 2 and 3. So it's a great time of persecution. So we need to look at the church history and go, okay, when were times of persecution? There's 2 main time frames to look at, and that's why there's 2 sometimes dates given. You have the early date for Revelation, which puts it between Emperor Nero's reign, that's 58 to 68 AD, and the people that favor this, they will try to allegorize a lot of the scripture because they want Nero to be the Antichrist. They want Nero to fulfill that role, and that all of the events that happen in tribulation get fulfilled within the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70. However, the Bible doesn't support that. When you look at the biblical text, the Gospels, the teachings of Jesus Christ, right? There is prophecies for the destruction of AD 70 and prophecies for the tribulation, 2 separate entities. So that's not really accurate from what I understand. A more accurate is like what you found, a late 90s date that puts it during the reign of Emperor Domitian, who was 81 to 96 AD. And so Emperor Domitian, if you think Nero was bad from a Christian persecution perspective, Domitian was worse than that. So that's a huge clue. Another huge clue for the later date is the decline in the church's spirituality. So if you were to put the church at an early stage, right, we have history that backs the early history of the church as on fire for God. The gospel is spreading, people are coming to Christ, right? But when you read chapters 2 and 3, there's a significant decline in the church spiritually. Jesus is chastising the church for how spiritually they've fallen. So you wouldn't have that so early on in the church history. That those 2 things really support the later date.
I think for me too, looking at the dates, I mean, either whether it was written in an earlier time or a later time, it still would make sense to me.
Yeah. It still could. The only thing, if you wanted to subscribe to that earlier date, you can't allegorize it, right?
Right.
We've posted our previous video on how to interpret biblical prophecy. You take it literally, historically, grammatically, hermeneutically, right? And when you look at the Bible in its context, you can't come up with an allegorized view. Right? That you can't take the Bible and make it say yellow dump truck. It just doesn't work. So that kind of favors that. I want to throw up here for a moment a quote from the Lexingham Bible Dictionary. I think this is a good one that kind of goes through and describes what the church historian Eusebius says about the rule of Domitian. And then one last quote that I want to make mention of. This is from Paul Beanwire in his survey of the New Testament. He writes, the church father Irenaeus said that John received the truths of Revelation toward the end of Domitian's rule. Domitian died in AD 96, so the date of AD 95 is commonly given. So that's, you have early church fathers Eusebius and Irenaeus supporting that late 90s date, and only one challenge to it if you look at all the church fathers. This comes from the early church father Papias, and Papias, he's the only challenger to this late date. He's the only one that says that John was martyred before AD 70. So that's not backed up by Eusebius or Irenaeus, and even Clement of Alexandria refutes that as well. So you've got three main church fathers refuting the one. So it's kind of that, who are you going to pick, the greater or the lesser type?
So then that leads us into the why.
Why
Was
is
the
this book written?
Yeah.
Jinx.
So I came to realize it's to reveal Jesus Christ, obviously.
Yep.
To show his judgment over sin, and to give encouragement and hope for the new Jerusalem,
Yeah.
the new heaven, and the new earth.
Yep. I mean, to put it simply, it's to reveal the places that are going to come before, during, and after the second coming of the Messiah. What's really fascinating about this book and fits into this is that this book gives us its own outline. It's I think the only book in the Bible that actually outlines itself. I want to read this. Revelation 1:19 says, write the things which you have seen, the things which are, and the things which will take place after this. Really, that sounds like a Lord of the Rings, like if the prequel to Lord of the Rings opens up. Right?
Wow.
Write the things which you have seen, and the things which are, and the things which will take place after this. That gives you the outline.
Okay.
Chapter 1, John is writing the things he has seen. Chapters 2 and 3, he's writing the things that are. He's speaking to 7 literal churches during his day and age. And then chapters 4 through 22 are the things which will take place after this. And so the bulk of this book is prophecy, future prophecy, and so that's how we to understand it.
So do we have any additional thoughts?
I have a few, do you?
I have a very small few.
All right, I'll let you go first.
Just that there were or are about 350 direct quotes or clear allusions from the Old Testament found in Revelation, which I think is interesting.
So to piggyback on that, I found in 2 other sources, both from Todd Hampson and Arnold Fruchtenbaum, that there could be more.
Well, that's cool.
Yes. So Arnold Fruchtenbaum gives 500. He puts 500 references or allusions to the Old Testament. Todd Hampson goes up to 800.
That's really fascinating.
Yes. So these are guys that have spent a lot more time than we have studying it, and they've found a lot more allusions or references to the Old Testament than... Yeah, so between 400 and 800. I know that's a wide gap, but that's still a lot. And goes back to our point at the beginning. You need to know the rest of the Bible to really know Revelation.
Yep, I think it's amazing, really. That also comes from Paul Benware.
Yeah.
Also, just because you quoted it too. So.
Yeah. You got Paul Fruchtenbaum and Todd Hampson.
Yeah. So, and then just to, again, piggyback off that, it's just So understanding the Old Testament is so essential to reading Revelation. And don't get me wrong, I could learn so much more. Like, I hope we do learn so much more throughout this study that we do.
Yeah.
But just knowing that Old Testament and going back to some of those things is going to be really interesting.
Yeah, it helps you to really understand, because John's going to do things and describe things from his perspective, first century Jewish perspective mindset. So when he describes something, it's not going to be accurate to what we are going to see today, but he's going to do his best to describe it in the way that he understands it.
Well, I even think that some of those things he's describing, we would have a tough time describing.
Probably.
Because I think some of those things are just things we might not know either.
Right.
You know, it's set aside for just that time.
Yeah.
So, but any other thoughts?
One last one. I want to finish up with a quote from Todd Hampson in his book, The Nonprofit's Guide to Revelation. He says this: "There's a very thin veil between our world and the unseen spiritual world. This veil will soon come crashing in. Our faith will soon become sight, and we will behold Jesus Christ in his glory." So this is just something to keep in mind when we are diving into Revelation here, is that this book is going to describe the split of that veil, how the unseen world is going to come crashing into our world during this 7-year time period, the 7-year tribulation. And it's going to be crazy, for lack of a better word. The whole breadth of Scripture is going to come to a head, and we're going to have the end of the world as we know it. And like we said earlier, this book was written for everyone. So no matter where you are in your walk with the Lord, you can pick something up.
What's amazing,
Learn.
though, is it is the end, but it's also the beginning of something new.
Yes, it is.
So I think that's really going to be great.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, we
Cool.
look forward to starting this study with you guys.
Yep.
And we'll see you in the next one.
All right. Bye.